I want to tell you about a study that might explain more about your life than anything else. It's about children, but stay with me because it's really about you. It's about the voice inside your head right now and where it actually came from. What if the reason you doubt yourself has almost nothing to do with you? What if that hesitation you feel, that voice that says, "I'm not sure I can do this," what if that's not your voice? What if it's really an echo of something you heard from someone else a long time ago when you were 3 years old, 5 years old, or 12? They said it so many times that it stopped sounding like their opinion and it started sounding like the truth. Here's what I've come to believe. Most people aren't living their own narrative. They're living a borrowed one, and they don't even know it. In this video, I'm going to show you the research that proves it, how your brain is wired and how it works. And then I'm going to give you a way out, not a motivational pep talk, an actual framework, including how personalized AI can help you do something about this starting today. In 1995, two researchers from the University of Kansas, Betty Hart and Hart Risley, published a study that should have changed everything. It's called The Meaningful Differences in the Everyday Experience of Young American Children. They spent 2.5 years going into the homes of 42 families. Every month, for 1 hour, they recorded everything that they saw. Every word a parent said to their child, every interaction. The children were between the ages of 7 months and 3 years old. The families spanned 3 economic groups: professional families, which were more the upper class, working families, which was the middle class, and then families on welfare, the lower class. Here's what they found. Children in professional families, the upper class, they heard about 2,153 words directed at them per hour. Working class kids, the middle class kids, heard about 1,251. Children on welfare or the lower income, they heard about 616 words per hour directed at them. When you extrapolate that across the years, by the age 3, children in professional families heard roughly about 30 million more words than children in welfare families. This is what got all the headline attention back in the 90s, the 30 million word gap. But what most people missed, and this is the part that should keep you up at night, it wasn't just the quantity of words, it was the type of words and messages that the kids received. Hart and Risley tracked 2 specific categories: affirmations and prohibitions. And basically what that means is words of encouragement versus words of discouragement. So it came down to encouragement versus discouragement. In professional families, children heard on average 32 affirmations and 5 prohibitions per hour. That's a 6-to-1 ratio of encouragement to discouragement. In working class families, it was 12 affirmations and 7 prohibitions, a 2-to-1 ratio. In welfare families, 5 affirmations and 11 prohibitions per hour, a 1-to-2 ratio. More no than yes, more stop than try, more discouragement than encouragement. And here's what makes it so profound. 3-year-olds don't analyze language. They just absorb it. They bring it in, they take it. They don't debate whether mom and dad or whoever's around them is right. They internalize it as a fact. So children learn words, and they learn what's possible by the language of the adults and the people around them. Now, before you go writing a negative comment on this, I know that the exact numbers in this study have been debated, and the number of families was small, only 42. So some critics have said that they've extrapolated very aggressively on this, and that's a fair note. However, The direction of the finding has been confirmed by multiple follow-up studies, and the core truth remains. The language environment you grow up in doesn't just teach you words, it teaches you who you are. Let me explain how this works in your brain. There's a progression that almost nobody talks about, and it starts with repetition becomes a belief becomes an identity becomes a behavior, and a behavior becomes or creates an outcome. If you hear that you're not good at math enough times, you're going to stop trying when it comes to math. Not because you necessarily lack ability, but because you've adopted a belief about your ability. And once it's a belief, something you believe is true about yourself, you stop questioning it. You treat it like a fact, and it becomes a part of who you are. Think about the phrases that get repeated in certain households. You're too sensitive. We can't afford that. People like us don't do that. Stop dreaming. You're just like your father. Those aren't just sentences. When you say them enough, with enough emotion behind them, they become installations. They're your programming. And a child's brain accepts the download without a firewall or filter. It just accepts it as truth. Now here's the neuroscience that makes this stick. Your brain processes millions of bits of information every second, like the air you feel and sounds and sitting in a chair or standing, whatever you're doing, it's processing all of that. But your conscious mind can only handle about 40 to 50 bits at a time. So your brain has a filtering system, and it decides what gets noticed, what's important, and what isn't. And that filtering decides what reaches your consciousness or your awareness. And that is so key because it filters out based on what you already believe is important. So when you believe something, you're going to think it and see it, and it's going to make it more realistic. So if you think you're good at something, you're going to see and experience that because it's going to filter that through you. If you think or feel you're bad at something, it's going to filter that so you get more of that. And basically, it's the saying where like attracts like. Whatever you have inside you, you're going to be a magnet to attract more of that, whether it's positive or negative. So if you've internalized, I'm not smart enough, your brain starts scanning the world for evidence that confirms that. Every mistake you make gets highlighted. Every success you have gets dismissed as luck or some chance thing. That's not a personality flaw. That's confirmation bias running your childhood installation and programming. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing a version of reality that your early programming allows you to see. By the time you're in your middle to late teens, you have what I call an invisible operating system. It's running in the background of every decision you make, every risk you take or avoid, every relationship you enter or sabotage, every opportunity you pursue or let pass. And people never examine this. They just think that it's their self-talk and it's rational and normal. They think those internal limits are just who they are. Now, although you didn't create your original operating system, you are definitely responsible for the upgrades, the maintenance, and which direction you go from here forward. Now let's bring this forward. You're 35 or 45 or 60. Someone presents you with an opportunity. Could be in business, a relationship you want to get involved with, a creative project, a career change, and instantly, before you've even evaluated it, you start saying things in your head. A little voice pops in and says, "That's not for you. Are you sure you can do this? You're not ready for that. Who do you think you are?" When you hear that voice, I want you to ask it to stop and say, whose voice is that? Is that the considerate, kind, compassionate voice of my best self in my adult brain, analyzing data and probabilities and looking out for what's best? Or is that the survival mechanism that you developed at age 5 or age 9 to avoid embarrassment, to avoid pain? Because here's what I see over and over. Adults don't just carry childhood programming into their adulthood. They select their adult lives to match it. If you grew up around scarcity thinking, you're often going to find yourself around people who normalize scarcity. If you grew up around cynicism, you're going to gravitate towards friends and people who are cynical. If you grew up around possibility, you're going to normalize growth because you replicate the environment that built you. Not because you chose it consciously, but because it feels like home, it feels comfortable, and it feels normal and what is expected for you. And now let's look at this in modern life. You have social media, news cycles, friends, your workplace. What is the default setting of those things when you're watching the news, when you're in your friend groups, when you're at work? You are still becoming programmed. If it's negative, if it's downer, if it's excuses, if it's limitation, unless you're very rare, you're not going to be an outlier. You're going to blend in. You're going to be around your pack that finds whatever it is that you find normal, they're going to find normal too. But is that really in your best interest? Are you really challenging yourself? Are you into growth? Now, you might be an outlier and you're in a group that really is into growth. Maybe they're getting into AI, personal development, different things like this. But most people are not doing that. And the only question you need to ask yourself on this is, are the people I'm interacting with, the social media I'm doing, all this stuff, is it expanding me and making me greater, more opportunities, more possibilities? Or is it restricting me and shrinking me and making me less? And who are you listening to daily? Who's got your ear? Who is getting your awareness and your consciousness? And does your friend group treat certain things as normal that you become normal with? What content do you consume? What's the narrative running in your head when you're under pressure? Here's a key question. Is what I'm allowing inside me increasing or decreasing the odds of the life I actually want? So you might be wondering, oh boy, that's a lot of stuff to throw on me. What do I actually do? Well, there's 3 specific things, 3 levers that I'm going to show you. And this isn't a motivational pep talk or some kind of strange things. These are structural changes that you can do right now. And the first lever is evaluate your inputs. Remember, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. If you put in heart and effort and positive attitude, you're going to get that. If you put in negativity, that's what you're going to get. We all know that input creates output. If I put the ingredients for a cake in an oven and bake it, I'm not going to get a pot roast to come out of it. It just doesn't work that way. So what are you inputting? And what you can do is audit what's going on. Audit your environment, audit the people around you, look at and evaluate what am I allowing in my space, the people, the interactions, the social media. What is the input that I'm allowing? Now, if you were to do this in other areas, you do the same thing. If you want to increase your fitness or lose weight, you would do an audit and evaluate, what am I eating? How much am I exercising? And then you can make changes accordingly. And this is the same with this. What podcasts are you listening to or not listening to? What social media are you following or not following? Who are you interacting with work or not? All those voices are expanding what's possible for you, or they're reinforcing limitations. The second lever is to identify inherited narratives that you have. What story's going on in your head? Where did that come from? Did that come from grandpa, your parents, your neighbor, your schoolhood friends? This is where metacognition, Thinking about your thinking becomes your most powerful tool. The next time you catch yourself saying something like, "That's not me," or "I can't do this," pause and ask 4 questions. Where did I first learn this belief? Who modeled it for me? Is it actually true, or is it just familiar? Does this belief serve the person I'm becoming, or only the person I was trained to be? That last question is everything. Familiarity and truth are not the same thing. Something can feel absolutely true and real and 100% there, and be absolutely inherited a false memory, a false truth, a false belief that you are following because you believe it's true, but it's not true. And the third lever is building deliberate self-talk. This is not talking into the mirror and being fake or phony. This is literally making a conscious choice to replace inherited language that was programmed in you with growth language or language that helps and support you. So instead of saying, "I can't do this," replace it with, "I'm learning how to do this." Instead of, "I'm not good at this," try, "I'm not skilled at this yet." Instead of, "I'm always messing things up," try, "I'm building my capacity." Sometimes people say to me, "Well, this feels fake or phony, or this doesn't sound like legit to me," okay? Anything you repeatedly do to yourself over and over and over, it's called brainwashing, right? Anything you do over and over and over, you start believing more. And initially, it might not feel authentic, it might not feel real, but you've got all these layers of stuff that's been programmed on you, and think of like you got to chisel away all this and get down to the truth. And you're not lying to yourself. You're choosing accurate language that doesn't close doors. And you just have to be able to be open to that. Now, some of you might say, "This is a bunch of crap and I don't believe it." You've already closed the door on this and you haven't even given it a try because you have so much programming, so much toxicity in you that you're not even willing to open and look at this. But if you do, there's a massive difference between dishonest positivity, like me thinking I'm going to be a center in the NBA and I'm 5'10", but thinking I'm going to somehow be 7'2" and do all this stuff, versus honest expansion. Like, can I make my YouTube videos better? Can I get better at writing? Can I become a better person? Yes, those are all within my control. So I'm not saying to be delusional or to lie to yourself, but you also have to realize for so much of your life, you have been lying to yourself about what's possible, about what you can do, that it might feel awkward and weird to shed some of that and step into the truth. But as they say, the truth will set you free and lies imprison you. So you have to ask yourself, am I willing to go through some of that awkwardness if it actually helps me become a better person? This isn't just my opinion. This is backed by science and research. Meta-analysis on internal self-talk has showed consistent positive effects on performance, so when you're trying to do a task or something, and on your emotional regulation. Can I keep myself in check and not blow up, or whatever the case might be for my emotions? And when people deliberately practice constructive self-talk, they don't just feel better, they perform better in all measurable ways. Their brain builds stronger connections between your intention, what you want to do, and then the action, which definitely goes back to what I was saying before, the input and the output, the cause and the effect. And remember, if you go back to the original study I talked about children up through age 3, and did they get discouragement or encouragement? Remember that repetition built the original beliefs. repetition can build new ones. And neuroplasticity shows that this is true and possible. Your brain can rewire itself based on what you repeatedly do and say. The question isn't, is this possible? Because it certainly is. The question is, are you willing to change the audio programming going in your head, the programming that has you where you are now? And is it something that you're willing to put in the work and do the effort? Because you can watch a video like this, and I appreciate that you're here. But if you're not willing to reprogram yourself, this will just go and go right by you. It won't stick with you. But if you're willing to do the work, you can fundamentally change the trajectory of your life by changing the inputs. Now let me take this one step further, because understanding the problem is one thing, having a system to address it is quite differently. We have clearly established that there are beliefs running your life that were installed when you were very young, and most likely they're still running and operating your life. Upgrading those beliefs requires a new repetition. It needs to be consistent, it needs to be personalized to what you're specifically facing, what's been programmed in you, and it needs to be deliberate. This is where personalized and customized AI becomes a genuine way that you can make this shift and transformation. What if every morning you received a message that wasn't generic and it wasn't some motivational quote like believe in yourself with a sunset background? What if something was built specifically for you, where you are, for exactly the narrative and the work that you're working on, the upgrades that you want, something that knows your patterns, your inherent stories, what you think your limitations but aren't, that gives you that growth edge, something that meets you where you are today. And if you stumble, it meets you there too. If you grow, it meets you there. It knows where you're at and it works according. You don't have to be perfect, but it's something that works for you with meeting reality, exactly where you are. Not what some influencer assumes you are, but very specific and detailed for you. That's the power of personalized AI when it's used correctly. Not as a replacement for self-awareness, but as an accelerant to awareness and your own personal growth. Imagine a daily message that 1. Interrupts a specific inherited narrative you've identified. 2. Reinforces the self-talk you're deliberately building. 3. Asks you a question that makes you think differently about your day. 4. Adjusts based on what you're actually going through, not a one-size-fits-all formula. So you have a choice. You're now aware that you have these patterns running in your life. We now have the technology that can put this internal repetition on autopilot in a positive way. You can change the trajectory of where you want to go by having personalized AI when it's designed around how people actually change, and it learns you, not generic advice, not one size fits all, a personalized system that addresses your specific needs. This is exactly why I built the Infinity Shift system to do this. And if you want more information, you can see the link in the description. Let me leave you with this. The voice in your head today was shaped by repetition. Most of that repetition happened before you were old enough to question it. But you're not 3 anymore. And you don't have to keep running software that someone else installed. Remember, you can audit the voices you're listening to. You can name the beliefs that were given to you, not chosen by you. You can deliberately build new language for who you're becoming, who you want to grow into. You didn't choose your first operating system, but you can absolutely choose to upgrade it and upgrade it significantly. And the life you build over the next decade will reflect the audio programming, the programming you have in general that you choose to run. So choose wisely. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it stirred up some things and got some action going, some ideas flowing with you. Remember, I have a whole bunch of other videos out here on AI and personal growth and development. You can click one of those and see them. Check out my page at Brian Orton and the number 1. Until the next video, all the best to you. I look forward to seeing you then.